Hey there. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Tinnitist TV. Today I am talking to Eli Paperboy Reed. You could say he always delivers, even when it's yesterday's news. Look no further than the retro singer and songwriter's latest album, Hits and Misses, The Singles. As you might expect, it's a compilation, but it's not a best of. It's a collection of rarities, covers, and other songs that fell between the cracks of his catalog and his career. Many of them, including fantastic versions of Steely Dan, Merle Haggard, Bob Dylan, and his must-hear revamp of Motörhead's Ace of Spades, are as good as anything he's ever done. Along with other tracks recorded in legendary studios with iconic musicians, they offer a great on-ramp to his near two-decade career. Just before Hits and Misses arrived, Reed zoomed in from home to discuss musical pilgrimages, how he hears songs, his jaw-dropping voice, and plenty more. Enjoy. Excellent. Glad to see you there.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure. So where are you?
I live in Brooklyn, in New York.
Oh, okay. And how long has that been?
16 years now.
Oh,
Jeez.
okay. It's been a while. Been a while then. All right. All right. Well, let's get down to business. We are here to talk about your new album, which is called Hits and Misses, the
Mhm.
Singles, which from the title, I think a lot of people will probably assume it's some sort of best of compilation.
The
But it's
opposite of
but it's obviously not that. But there is a concept behind it. It's probably something that's better you explain than I try and put into words.
Sure. I mean, I've got eight studio albums now, and kind of over the course of my 15-year career, after every record, you kind of make a B-sides session or a single session, just something else to have as kind of an addendum to each record. Sometimes for me it was like 45s I would sell on the road, kind of limited edition 45s. But all these songs have kind of lived in different places. Some of them were available digitally, some of them weren't. And I got to thinking, as in the middle of my second decade and about to turn 40, that we would put these songs in one place and have them see if they would all fit together. And I kind of started playing them back to back and trying to think about how the order would work, and it felt to me like they all could live in under one roof, I suppose.
Yeah, and they do very well, considering that they age. I mean, some of them are like 15 years old, and some of them
Sure.
are 2, 3 years old. It all fits together really well. I mean, was this part of? Is there a lot more where this came from, or is this pretty much everything that you had left over, so to speak?
There's more. There's still more. um I mean, this was most of the things that kind of fit under this particular umbrella, in terms
Right.
of like stuff that was singles or like. And there are other recordings that I have. We're getting ready to do the 20th anniversary, actually, of my first album, which is
Oh,
called Walk and Talk, and that'll come out next year. And there's a whole bonus disc of stuff from that same era that'll,
wow.
that'll go along with that. So it's uh, it's an amazing amount of music to have to kind of be, I don't know, the whatever you want to call it, the estate holder of, I suppose. Like I have to be kind of aware of all the different things and where they could live, and I also want to make things available to people that may have not have been available before. And for this record in particular, I just felt like these songs were too good to just be on the shelf, the proverbial shelf, for forever.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. But I'm wondering, how does it feel? Because as you said, you're still in your late 30s. You've got a lot of music to make ahead of you, and you're already in this sort of, retrospective 20th anniversary frame of mind. That's got to be like a weird place to be in your career.
It's strange, but okay. I'm okay with it. It makes me feel proud of what I've been able to accomplish so far, and to try to put the capper on the 15 years that I've been making record, or more really, that I've been doing this professionally, and to think about my next 2 decades doing it or whatever, and that's pretty amazing to be able to think about. And not that I'm gonna toss everything aside and start a whole new chapter, but to be able to say, okay, that was what I accomplished, over since the first album came out in 2004.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's talk about some of these songs because I think, people who are familiar with what you do and heard the Merle album that you did might be a little more up on or a little less surprised, let's say, than
Sure.
other people because there are a lot of covers on this album, and for people who aren't necessarily familiar with what you do, I think the first thing will strike them is that these are songs that you would not expect somebody who traffics in your brand of music to do,
Mhm.
and B, not necessarily done in a way that people would expect. I mean, the very first song in this album, which I think is the perfect way to start this album, is your cover of Motörhead's Ace of Spades, which until you hear this, and even it's one of those songs where I went Ace of Spades. Well, that's funny that he would borrow that title from a Motörhead song. And then I start playing it and go, wait a second. And it takes you pretty much until the chorus, until you
Yep.
go, until the penny drops and your head explodes. Um, so, tell me about approaching a song like that, because for a lot of people, when they do covers, they sort of err on the side of reverence. They
Mm.
might put their own little spin on it, but the song remains essentially the same. And you seem to opt more for a little bolder reinvention.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have both on this record, but certainly for Ace of Spades, I felt like if I was going to do it, I might as well go for it. In a way, though, I mean, the construction of the song, the form is the same as it is on the Motörhead record. It's the same.
Mhm.
It's like fairly straightforward, and we just kind of just and playing that riff. I remember this was a long time ago. This was on a 45 that we had that we sold at shows, and I remember people would play it. DJs I knew, and people would come up to them and say, "Is this the original version?" And that was that made me know I was really on the right track.
That's a
You know,
compliment.
so that makes me, because we just the riff is so iconic, and we just kind of recast it and cut the time in half and made it like a funk thing, and it just, I don't know, it felt very natural to me. That's the one thing, is like, if it doesn't, like a rearrangement of a song, whether it's that or other songs on this record, if they don't start make sense fairly quickly, then I think you got to go in a different direction. Like I wasn't trying to force anything,
Right.
because that would, I don't see the point otherwise. So with this, we were just messing around at a sound check somewhere, and I think my guitar player, who was really into punk and metal, was playing that riff, and we just had the ideas like, well, what if we do it as a funk thing, and like cut the subdivide the time a little differently, and it just came together just like that.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like James Brown covering it for Stax Volt in a way. It's correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the press material says that you had not actually heard Motorhead's version of
No,
the song.
no, I had only heard my guitar player at the time playing the riff. I think I listened to it to get the words, like, but we had already come up with an idea and an arrangement before I had listened to it. Yeah.
Did you ever hear whether Lemmy ever heard it?
We sent him a record a bunch of times, or a few times. I know that it was received, but I don't know anything more than that. I
All
know
right.
that it was like, sadly, it was not, not, it wasn't confirmed whether or not he was able. I like to think that he liked it.
Well,
That's my
here's the thing. I think if he had not liked it, you probably would have heard something about that.
I would imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah. And then right after that, you've got this cover of Steely Dan's "Do It Again," which
Mhm.
again is kind of, yes, the structure of the song in terms of how it goes along is similar, but you turn it into, and I'm glad you mentioned it in the press release, into this Nick Waterhousey kind of
Yeah, yeah. It's
um,
funny
uh,
'cause Nick and I are good friends, and this was something that we had discussed at one point, and I just beat him to it, basically. You know, like, he didn't give me the idea really, but it was like we talked about how it would be easy.
Uh-huh.
I remember we had breakfast one time in LA. This was like a bunch of years ago, and was talking to Nick about it, and I love Nick, and he's very iconic in his particular style these days. So it was I was like, I'm just gonna just bite his thing and do it as well as I can.
Yeah, I interviewed him for the new album that he just put out, and
Yeah,
he is I'm asking him my dumb music guy questions, and he starts talking about Joycean epiphanies and gamblers' fallacies, and he's just like one of the intimidatingly nice, great guy, nice guy, but it's like talking to him was just so.
he's
What the hell are
quite
you?
the intellectual. That
Oh,
that
yeah,
yeah.
well, exactly. He's going down these rabbit holes, and I'm just going, huh? But yeah,
That's I
great.
mean it's he's I that's Nick is his own man, that's for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, is when you listen to a song sometimes, whether it's a Steely Dan song or a Merle Haggard song or somebody else, I mean, do you hear it differently than the rest of us do? Do you hear it and go, "Oh, I know exactly what I would do with that and how I would play that song," or is it something that comes
No,
about?
yes, that's exactly how it is. That's
Okay,
absolutely, and especially with the Merle stuff, these were ideas, the arrangements for the Merle stuff that I had just been that were in my head, that had been kicking around in my head for a long time. When a song I feel is coverable, the arrangement kind of it just comes very quickly. I'm just like, oh, it's really cool. The melody is really cool, whatever. And I'll like just start thinking about how I would do it, and then half the time I can sit down with the guitar and at least sketch it out in my own particular way, pretty fast. You know,
does that happen
I love,
often?
does it happen often? I mean, I sit at home and play all the time, and sometimes I'll play songs that I love, and sometimes and just think about, I don't know, just playing other people's songs and how to do them my own way is something that I've been doing for my whole life, really. I mean, going back to playing in bars and like just to be able to put your own stamp on things was sort of the hallmark of it, is to have people love what you do but also recognize the song and all of that. There's some songs on this record. Let's Straighten It Out by Lattimore, for instance,
Yeah.
is something that I had learned playing in Mississippi, and I would play it in these little juke joints in Mississippi, and that was something that I really became one of my signature songs when I was playing down there, and people identified it with me, and
Mm.
that's really cool.
Yes. Well, let's talk about a bit about that because one of the things that strikes me about your biography, both personally and professionally, it seems like you've not just been making this music, but you've been a student of this music for much of your life, and I almost get the sense of a lot of the places you've chosen to live and work and ply your trade have been almost like pilgrimages for you in terms of going to Clarksdale and Chicago and all these places where the music actually is born and exists and lives and breathes. Um, I mean, I guess I understand the concept behind it, but I'd like to sort of hear your take on it because I mean, these days you could live anywhere, and people
Sure.
do live in Seattle or live in Portland or live in Alaska and play the blues. What made you need to go to these places?
I mean, I moved to Clarkston when I was 18, so the idea that it was a thought through decision was false. Um, that it was not thought through.
Uh-huh.
It was as thought through as it could have been, and you know, I didn't really know what to expect or what I was getting into, and I just found my way into situations because I was eager and excited to be there and young, and you know, looking back at all these decisions that I made as a really a teenager, you know, they were incredibly fortuitous, and I was so lucky to be able to spend time and play music with the people that I did, both famous and not, you know that it, it was not a a a foregone conclusion, any of it. I just found my way. I mean, I don't know. It wasn't luck because I did actively seek it out. You
Sure.
know,
Yeah. And I mean, can you hear quantifiable ways in which this has all shaped you as a
Oh
musician and
yeah.
a songwriter?
I mean, as a performer, certainly. I mean, the amount of time that I spent, I mean, the proverbial 10,000 hours, right?
Right.
I went to Clarksdale and lived there, and I played Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sometimes Monday, 4 hours a night. That's a lot of hours,
Yeah.
you know?
It's your
And
Beatles and Hamburg period.
yeah, right, exactly. That's it, and like, did I think about it that way at the time? No, I really didn't. I just was excited to go and play, you
Right.
know, and I love doing it because if you think about it like that, you're probably not doing it right. I
Right.
guess you want to experience, you want to be in the moment of the experience. And same thing, I went to Chicago to go to school, but I just didn't go. I just went and played on the south side of Chicago and went to church and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
It was, those are the decisions I made. And it wasn't like, when I'm 30 and a recording artist, I'm gonna look back on these and think that it was a great idea that I, you know, took these pilgrimages to these places and learned at the feet of the masters. I wasn't even planning on being a professional musician at the time, and I didn't. I mean, I wasn't. I didn't feel that I could make a life doing it, and
Uh-huh.
only after those few years, and when I came back to Boston, I sort of made it up in my mind that I had to at least try.
Hmm.
But at the time, I was not thinking about playing music professionally. No,
What was plan A?
I wanted to be an ethnomusicologist.
Oh, well, I mean, okay, not
Yeah,
totally,
not super far. But the problem is, to be an ethnomusicologist, you have to be separate. You have to separate yourself from the people that you're observing, and I could not do that. I'm
all
not
right.
able to separate myself, and I'm
Fair
still
enough.
not. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not an academic. I
Alan
have to.
Lomax was not for you, huh?
I mean, and like Alan Lomax is an incredibly important
Oh, yeah,
pioneer.
yeah. But I
You
mean,
know,
just not your path. Yeah.
no, I couldn't do it. No, I couldn't
Hmm.
do it. If I was recording Muddy Waters, I would have had to like step in and play. I couldn't have sat here and just listen.
Well, this begs the question to me is how did you, end up being so obsessed with this music and this sound and this era? Because, given your age, it doesn't really track. I mean, you should be listening to, I don't know, U2 and Eminem and the White Stripes and, so where did this all start with you?
I mean, I have to give credit where it's due to my parents, to my dad specifically, and the records that he had around the house and the things that, it's not like, I think it's important. I mean, I love all sorts of different kinds of music, and I, in particular, grew up on country music in the '90s, and I still have a great reverence for that sort of era of country music, and I think it's actually informed my songwriting quite a bit. But as far as like my particular, obsession with, rhythm and blues and gospel music and all that stuff, I think it really goes back to my dad and his records. And as to why those particular sounds affected me so much, I don't, it's hard to answer that. I think anybody, I have, a bent towards particularly emotional, artwork in every form, and it, for me, the purity of expression. I mean, that's why I come back so much to gospel music, especially because I find it to be just like, so, you know, I don't know, pure is not the right word, because I don't think that like authenticity is a real thing or purity is a real thing, but it's
Mm.
a depth of feeling that I felt is unmatched, you know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I mean, do you keep up on contemporary music today? I mean, living in
Yeah.
Brooklyn, I would think you can't, throw a rock without hearing you know,
You
a
do. I
great
mean, I
beat.
do. I think there's an amazing community of music in Brooklyn, especially people who are into, soulful music and
Mm-hmm.
funk and Afrobeat and,
Right.
reggae, stuff like that. And also there's, also, I mean, there's so much, you can't avoid it. And everybody, all the musicians that I kind of associate with and play with are all, in different outfits that they also engage with, and different music and that they get involved with. And there's, I think it's a great time to be a listener, for sure, and appreciator of music. And there's so much out there to, whether I have little kids too, so I got to keep up with Taylor Swift. And that's okay. I think it's important. I mean, I don't want to be a curmudgeon in my life. If I
Right.
can avoid that, I would prefer not to be.
Or an anachronistic
Or anachronistic, yeah. And at the same time, I don't want to, create something quote unquote modern for its own sake. I do want to stay true to who I am as a performer and a songwriter, as an artist, and the things that I love, and I know what those are.
right. I guess the question now is, have you heard a Taylor Swift song and gone, I
Oh,
know what
there's
I could do with that?
Oh, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I would love to do. I could do a whole record of '90s country soul reincarnations. That would be so easy and really fun. But I
Well,
don't know
who's stopping you?
money, desire from audiences. I don't think anybody would care. It'd be awesome if they would. Maybe,
Uh-huh.
maybe someday.
I think there are enough people who would care.
I got to make a new record of Eli Paperboy Reed music before I make another covers record, though.
Fair enough. That does make sense.
That's
So let's
What's that?
talk about a new record.
Sure.
Is it already in the works? Is it already in the can? Where are things at?
In the works. I think the plan is to. I have a lot of stuff that's written, and probably try to finish something, around the wintertime when touring is lulled, and then hopefully get something out in the fall of 2024.
And does it have a theme or a concept or some other things you can tell
I
me about
can't
it?
give too much away.
Sorry, say that
I don't
again.
want to give too much away.
Okay.
But I think yes, it does.
Very cryptic, sir. Very cryptic. Um, we talked about your travels and living here and there. I mean, hand in hand with that, professionally, you've obviously had these opportunities to record in some iconic rooms, Sam Phillips, Fame down in Muscle Shoals, and to work with the Hodges and some of the Swampers.
Yep.
What are those experiences like in the moment? Because I mean, for sure, you're a guy, you've got a lot of experience, you've worked with a lot of people, you're a solid professional. I know you're not fanboying out on David Hood, but at the same time,
a little bit.
Yeah, but at the same time, there must be a kind of going outside of your body kind of thing when you're in that moment.
Absolutely. I mean, Fame, all of it. I mean, I've been privileged to work with so many heroes, whether in the studio or on stage. I mean, it's just, if you had told me at 16 or 17 when I was obsessing over soul music, the amount of people that I was able to spend time working with, I mean, it's incredible. I think it can be disarming. Charles Hodges in particular is a tough customer, but we got to be buddies. I remember one of the songs on this record, Anytime You Want Me, I was showing him the chord changes because he was playing the wrong chord. And I said, Charles, no, it's a half diminished. And he was like, what do you mean? What's that? And I went over to the keyboard and I showed him what half diminished. And he's like, oh, okay. I never called it that. So it's like I had to go and show Charles Hodges what the half diminished chord was or what it meant.
Is your heart just going like this when you're doing that?
A little bit. That was hard, but we got to be buddies, and like the Masqueraders, those guys, they didn't know me, but I think everybody in particular, like guys like that who have been around, when they hear me step up to the microphone and sing, I think that's your pass, And it was the same thing in Muscle Shoals. I directed traffic and I was in the middle of the room singing, and you just don't hear a lot of modern singers that can do that can step up to the microphone in the middle of the room and sing live with the band and have it be a usable take, a good take, and also hear all the pieces that are going down. I mean, I'm not not to pat myself on the back, but I'm just aware. I mean, I've been a band leader for many years and I know what's going on at all times. And I just, if something's wrong or I want to hear something different, I can stop and tell them, and so that was, I mean, everybody speaks the same language in the end. Right. And that was really what it came down to.
Yeah. Talking about walking up to the mic, though, I mean, I kind of get the sense that, in some settings when you might be walking into a room with people who are not necessarily aware of the breadth and depth of your catalog or who you
mostly
are.
Mostly not.
Yeah, and then all due respect, you do not look like a man who is going to sound the way you
Oh,
sound.
thank you.
I'm guessing some jaws drop. You
I mean,
know,
it's one of my favorite things in the world, especially in church, is to go and, if I'm an invited guest or whatever, to go and sing in church and just watch people just completely just flabbergasted and not understand what's going on. My
I
favorite
mean,
thing in
was was there a time when the young Eli just opened his mouth and sang and this came out, or was this something that you had a lot of put in a lot of work to get to?
I think both things are true.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I was able to, you know, give some semblance of the way that I sound today or pretty early on, but to be able to control my voice and to be able to sing night after night also took time and work and practice and
Sure.
that was so I think that I understood. I mean, I didn't think about it so much when I was learning to sing. Like I just I don't know. I never thought about it being something that was out of the ordinary until people told me that it was.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that was,
yeah.
you know,
And yeah, more power to you.
yeah,
Talking about being in these rooms and working with these people, is there sort of a holy grail of, or do you have a list of, I'd love to work with this guy, I'd love to work with this guy, I'd love to work with this guy in this room? Or is it
sure.
just kind of the opportunities come along and you go with the flow?
The opportunities kind of came along, a lot of them just came along, you know. Fame, I was very good friends, still am with Rodney Hall, who's the son of Rick Hall, who
Right.
was the owner, legendary producer of Fame Studios. And Rodney called me because he was doing this companion soundtrack to the Muscle Shoals documentary, and he said, "Why don't you come down and do a session at Fame with the guys?" And I
Mm.
said, "That sounds great. Let's go do
Yeah.
it." Um,
The
yeah,
guys.
yeah, with the guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And then, you know, I had made my record at 99 Cent Dreams at Sam Phillips, and Matt Rossbang, who produced it, was doing kind of a companion piece like for a recording like website. And they said, "Do you want to come down and do a record with the Hodges?" I said, "Yeah, I'll come down and do a
Yeah,
record."
okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Have
Yeah.
you seen his new studio? He just
Yeah,
opened
I've
it
been there.
downstairs.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I was just there a couple of weeks ago. They had a grand
Oh man.
opening and I went and yeah, what a fantastic place.
I haven't seen it finished. I went and visited when he was still in the midst of construction. Um, man, Matt's the best. He's a great dude, really talented, and just a
Yeah.
wonderful human being.
Is there any other room that you know like to get into to record?
I mean, I've been to Royal, and I'd love to do something at Royal.
Mm,
I don't know. I'd love to produce a record at Royal. There's a blues
mm.
singer from Clarksdale, named Anthony Sherrod that I'm really dying to hope to produce a record on, and I hope that can still happen. We've been talking in circles around it, but I'd love to take him to Royal and cut him there with Boo Mitchell,
Uh,
Willie Mitchell's godson and Royal in Memphis would be great. Studios are what you make of them.
right.
That's how I feel about it, and the magic is in the people,
Mm.
rather than the room itself. And I felt that way, you know, about Sam Phillips. I felt that way about Fame. I felt that way about all of it. And like the records I make here in Brooklyn, the studio is, not even the size of my apartment. It's small space. But the guys that I bring in to make the record, and my engineer who is at the helm and understands the sounds I want, we know how to make records together. And I think we can make special records in that sort of place, just the same.
Right, right. Well, to that end, then, is there sort of a dream collaboration that you would love to be able to put together?
Hmm. Al Green, you know,
Sure.
love to
You and
work
Al
with.
Green at the down there at the yeah,
Yeah,
at yeah.
just to write a song and produce it for Al. The thing about it is, maybe it's I love Al Green, but there's a ton of artists that I think are incredible that haven't made records that I think are up to their potential yet. I mean, I'm still getting my sea legs as a producer. I did these records for the Harlem Gospel Travelers that I'm very proud of.
Mm.
Um, there's a lot of guys out there like producing Al Green. I think I would imagine would be incredibly difficult because he's Al Green has been doing it for however many years,
Yeah.
right? But to find somebody who has that raw talent and hasn't made their magnum opus yet, those are the dreams. That's what I want. You know, that's why I want to make this record with this blues singer Anthony, and there are other guys out there that are like that. I want to find an avenue to do more projects like that.
Okay, so you sort of see this as being another part of the next chapter of your
I think
career,
so.
maybe?
Yeah. Yes. As a producer, I would love to. I mean, I'd love to be producing 4, 5, 6 records a year if I could. You know.
Oh, okay. Well, then you might need your own room at some point.
Yeah, I mean that would be really fun. Love that.
All right. Well, I guess we'll wait to see when that happens. I'm sure you'll find a way. You seem like a guy who's made a lifetime of finding a
Finding
way
a way,
to do what you
finding a
need to
way.
do, right?
That's my goal, right? It's true. I'm trying, still trying for sure.
All right, my friend. Well, listen, I've taken enough of your time today, but it's been a pleasure to talk to you, and I've enjoyed your work for years now, and this new album just really grabbed me, and I think it'll grab pretty much everybody 30 seconds into Ace of Spades
I
and
hope
keep them
so.
along for the rest of the ride. I look forward to the next the next studio
Next
album,
real
and
one. Yeah.
let's get you up to Canada sometime to play.
I'd love that. Yeah, we got to. We're going to Alaska of all places
I
next week.
saw that. Yes. Have you been
I'm
there
hoping
before?
that I've never been. It'll be my 50th state actually.
Oh, congratulations.
I'm very excited about that. But yeah, I'd love to come. It's been years since I've been back to Canada, so we're not going to do that soon.
Well, hopefully 2024.
Sounds good.
All
Appreciate
right,
it.
brother. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you somewhere down the road.
Sounds good. You too. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.